Jan, thank you so much again for your time. It's always a pleasure.
Well, it is a pleasure. Thanks for wanting to have me on.
First year as a head coach, I wanted to ask you, what have you learned about yourself, just as in general terms?
You know, that's a good question. I think every time I have a moment, I kind of bank it, and I'll do my reflecting in April and May. You know, I think the general thing, you learn that you can do it, right? I think that was the thing when you're younger, right? I think you learn you have the resiliency that I thought I had, right? It's just a little different sliding over. Everybody tells you that, but I've always been resilient, right? I've always been, you know, able to remain positive and see the good, remember the good, all that stuff, as part of a team, right? But sliding over when, you know, everybody is looking at you, right? Because there's times that, you know, there's wavering of just like, whew, a disappointment or what have you. So I think that was the thing is, you know, I'm happy that who I was then is who I am now. And it's not a surprise. I think it's just more, I'm just grateful because so many people I gleaned advice from, you know, they're just like, it was so many people, stay true to who you are, you know, never change. And I was like, wow, you know, what's going to happen sliding over, right? But I think that's the main thing. I think I guess the biggest thing is I don't believe I have really changed. I've just kind of gotten a little bit more confidence in how I did it and supported a year ago is doing that same thing now, leading. And for, you know, all intents and purposes, I think it's going pretty well.
Not all coaches are on social media. You're very, very active. We all see the tweets. I'm just curious. Do you ever come across like a tweet positive or negative about yourself?
Well, yeah. I mean, you have even last year, right? You know, whether people, you know, critiquing how you look or they like your hair, they don't, you know, all the things. Entering into this role, now I've always posted more than I have time to read. And so now that's even more true. But also, I don't want to, I mean, there's so many people that have opinions, and that's what social media is. But, you know, the venom has, you know, it gets louder. The higher you climb, the negativity is louder. So I just never really want to spend too much time on that. So, but equal, I don't read a lot of any of it, the good, the bad, the indifferent. You know, I'm just trying to showcase our team, and obviously it's a vehicle for all the things, you know, recruiting, you know, fans, that engagement, but it can just be so toxic that I don't want to take the time to let anything cloud or disrupt. And so you kind of miss some of the good with it, but there is a lot of negative that has come with it. So my son, he's always been a pretty good protector. One time I walked in, he's like, you know, hey, don't be getting on social media. And I said, I won't be, but thank you, son.
No, it's interesting. There was one thing, I guess, one thought that was percolating when the team was losing last month, and that was, oh, well, we all saw Jan as the nice, friendly coach, and now she's the head honcho. Does she have the gravitas, the demeanor to go and be that person? And I'm like, do you see Jan? Do you see her? You know, and I've certainly noticed a change in your demeanor. I think I brought that up at some point a couple of weeks ago. My question is, when you think about the way that you coach your players, whether it's good cop, bad cop, how has that changed in terms of the way you manage your players? You
know, I think by virtue of having the head seat, the relationships are different. You know, I'd miss sometimes, you know, all those film sessions or chats in your office over a film session because you just have a little bit more time as a positional coach. So now when you kind of, you know, ultimately control minutes, let's say, although our staff is really involved in that, it's a little bit more businessy in some senses. But other than that, I try to coach, usually from the positive side of things. And even in my other role, there were times in practice where, I'd coached so long with Lisa that I never had to ask to have the floor. So if I thought, they needed a little jacking up or something, I was able to do that. So I think with this, though, it's a lot different. Just, you constantly, you go rogue a lot, right? Where as an assistant, you will, I would be watching. And so then if, Lisa would get too high, I'd pull her, I would, whether I was right or wrong, you'd be like, you could give an opinion. Or when I wanted to maybe, talk, most of the time in practice I could interrupt, but if I had a thought for the next day at practice, you kind of, now it's just like, there's a lot of conversations. It's just more you go with that, your gut instinct. So I think I have enough of that. I never like the good and the bad cop analogy. I think, I do believe that most players are motivated by a little bit more of the positive than the negative type of motivation or, the reward system. So I've kind of stayed true to that. I just think, now when I stand on the sideline and, sometimes I just get too hot, and I'm really working on that. I watch film. Sometimes I don't really like the intensity of which I've delivered too often. So I'm constantly working on that because I still, I think that can have a time and place, but I also think it can be detrimental, with the tension, in a game with your team. So I'm definitely a work in progress on that.
Well, the joke that I made to David a couple weeks ago is I think Tania Davis should be your get-back coach, because every time I look at her, she's pulling you away.
She is. I think they've self-appointed. She's either self-appointed or they've appointed her, and no one's quite given me the straight story on why the smallest on our staff has got that duty.
So based on your answer, we will not be seeing you throw a chair anytime soon.
I really hope not. I'll be extremely disappointed in myself if it would ever get to that level, although I can understand why one would want to throw a chair.
On the different side of things, I notice just after games, win or lose, you guys are going over and signing autographs. And I think that's just this team has a unique mutual appreciation with the media, with the fans. It just seems like everybody's just on the same page in that sense. I suppose when you talk about like keeping that going, because it's always been that way, but you guys make that asserted effort to do those things.
I just feel so grateful that we have, I've been a part of building it here, right? And then when the fan base, chose to buy those tickets, and I actually, when we played at Ohio State this last week, I went to the lobby, and a family came over, and their Christmas present was their teenage daughter going to a game. They're from Toronto, and she loved Caitlin and Kate and all the things, but when they asked her, where do you want to go? And she's like, Iowa. I love Iowa. They're still my favorite team. And I love how they play. And I think that this team is continuing to do that. And we have always, the staff, Lisa, myself, Jenny, and this staff, Raina, Randy, Abby, Sean, Tania, we understand that it isn't like this everywhere. And when people bring their kids or they, choose to spend their discretionary income to support us, that is one of the greatest joys. It always has been, even way back when I coached at Drake, is when you have a chance to make someone's day. You have a chance to say thank you. And that is just such a fleeting moment, when a little one or someone wants an autograph. Win or lose, I think that is really the most important thing that we can do. And I think it is just a testament to our program. So I hope the crowds always come, but we will always sign as much as we can because we truly appreciate it.
And just something I just wanted really your thoughts on. There's, especially last year when Caitlin went to the next level, there was a lot of, the word gatekeeping came up a lot. People in that league, whether it was talking about media, players, whoever, saying, oh, you weren't here before, you can't talk about us now, you can't cover us now. But it was never like that when Caitlin was doing her thing here. It was always, hey, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Right.
We want you here.
Right.
We don't care if you weren't covering us before. We want you here now. When you see things like that start to fill the air, just what are your thoughts?
You know, I think it's disappointing. I think really the evolution, right, is that's the process. And if you love what you do, whatever part of that process that you are, I believe that you want to enjoy it and you want to keep moving the needle, right, if you're in a public sport. I never quite understood that because it always takes something unique and special to kind of make folks double take, right? You know, why is something popular in pop culture? Well, the right people kind of like it, and then everybody starts to like it, and that's just how it works, right? So then when you have like a generational talent, like a Caitlin, and she's doing everything, that she possibly can, and doing it with such flair, when that was met with a, hold on, wait, no, you can't, or where were you then? I just think it should have been so much gratitude. Hey, I'm glad you're here now. And I think it cast a light on what had happened before. So there were chances. One good example, Lynette Woodard, right? She got a really nice moment in the sun where maybe a lot of people really didn't understand what she had done. And I just think that's part of the evolution, right? I think everybody's parents, if you chose to have a family, I think you always wanted to provide a better life for your kids and hope they had an easier time. And I think in sport, I found that was just a unique angle that people chose to take. Not all people, but some.
Let's talk about you have the opportunity, we'll call it an opportunity, to take this program and capitalize on what has happened. I think some people will use the word blue blood. Do you view your program now as a blue blood, or you have the opportunity through recruiting, through the attention this team has gotten, to make it that?
I think blue blood has to be multiple years and pushing, decade, right, to get to that. And I think that's a long way off. I think that's a great goal for every program to have. And I think that would be a great byproduct. Every day I don't wake up with the pressure of like, oh, we got to capitalize and make this into blue blood, right? But I think the makings of what's happening here is certainly giving us a great opportunity. We're attracting great interest. We're attracting a lot of great recruits, to come to games. So I think we're on the right path. And I think what's interesting now is, had this been about 5 years ago, I think we could have been really talking about that potential. Now the landscape has changed so much that, the money that will now be part of the rev share and be part of, all the collectives is, blue bloods or not, there's a new angle that people are able to utilize. And so we're in interesting times because just the support, the crowd, the success, academics, a lot of times that is all, way on down the checklist when you're talking about money. So it'll be interesting to see, how it all plays out across the country. The blue bloods that were remaining the blue bloods, there's a lot of new players now, a lot of great coaches, young coaches, but that revenue share is a game changer.
One thing that you guys have now is you're going to have a seat at the table with nearly any high school player in the country. You guys are recruiting nationally now. Take me into a room when you're talking to a player. I mean, what is, obviously you've got hey, Caitlin played here. We coached Caitlin. We maximized that talent. we've also got great fans. What does that process look like when you're going up against, the UConns, the South Carolinas, the USCs, UCLAs, all those, and everyone in between?
It was interesting when Caitlin was here. People use it against us. If Caitlin, there'll never be someone after her. We're trying to get kids, she never comes off the court, so we've faced a lot of the different angles that, we've heard from the recruits and their families. So, just by virtue, Caitlin will always be a part of us. I've used the Michael Jordan analogy, and I'm so grateful for that. I hope forever, just like people think of Jordan's career, they think of, North Carolina, right? But it's not an active part of, how we recruit. You can draw upon it if a guard's looking at it, but you utilize it just like I do with Megan Gustafson. And look, she was a great post player. She was in the top 100. Man, she left here as the player of the year. And this is what we like to do, X, Y, Z with our post play. This is our development with our guards, like Caitlin, blah, blah, blah. So it's part of the story. But, everybody that you're sitting with in that room or in my office suite, it's about them and their experience that they're going to have here. So I really, everybody's recruitment is really so much different than, anyone else's, because what may be important to one family is the least of importance to another family. So the puzzle of recruiting is really figuring that out. And so the common denominator is our amazing fan base. That's the thing, and it really isn't like that everywhere. The passion, the support. There's just something about the Hawkeye fans that they really feel a part of us, and that's my favorite part because they are. And for me, that's the biggest story. And if you want to come where you're loved, truly, for being a great athlete, but really for being a great person, and people really appreciating the fact that, our team got well over a 3.5 last year, and we went to the, Final Four, and think, wow, that is so great. And Monica Sinano, they're so excited she's going to be a doc, right? And Caitlin, in the prestigious Tippie College of Business, and they know all these things. To me, I know other fan bases do as well, but I've played in some really, great environments. But even though I might be a little bit biased, what we have here is special. So that's what we talk about a lot. And then really academically, and everybody wants to know if they'll play. So you're really trying to show them how they fit into that picture. And now, of course, the rev share and all of that has come into play. So all of us coaching on the Division I level, we're trying to develop our new blueprint because the rev share looms largely over all of it.
Here's just out of my own curiosity, like the Monicas of the world, the McKenna Warnocks, the Kathleen Doyles, the Megan Gustafsons. What is your relationship like with your former players?
I mean, that's the greatest part, when your players graduate and they become your friends, right, in a sense. Every single one of those people I've seen in the last month. I've received texts, and the highs and the lows. Kathleen Doyle, she's coaching at Virginia Tech. Megan, of course, is playing in Spain for the Spanish national team. She's also training in Vegas. Monica, I saw her in Minnesota. Saw McKenna, she's here at dental school. But a lot of them were back for Caitlin's jersey retirement. But they, tough losses. Every one of them been there. Coach, you got this. We're with you. Big wins. USC, oh my gosh, that was awesome. I was watching. They're with us every step of the way. And I think that's my favorite part. And that's why I got into coaching, is to have that type of relationship when they're here, trying to teach them to handle the ups and the downs, to win with grace, to lose with even more grace. And then when they graduate and they're just skyrocketing in their lives, to still be a part of it, it really doesn't get any better.
What's changed in your personal life for being a head coach?
Just a lot. The time, the time is crazy. I don't see my family that much. I'm very thankful. My spouse, Julia, she takes great care of my health, trying to make sure I leave the house early in the morning with a protein smoothie and trying to get the health stuff because I can forget to eat on occasion. And my kids are just so great. You know, you miss a lot of their stuff. Every coach does. But I think this first year, I'm probably checking and double checking everything so much. So the time at the office, you'd say you'll be home by about 7. You look down and it's not 7. And so that has just been interesting. And they've been really supportive, like they all get it. And then, you know, I really enjoy, you know, my friends. I don't, you know, it was hard to see them anyway socially, whether you're trying to get a dinner in or meeting for a coffee or a drink. That I've noticed doesn't happen as much. And even the calls, I just think there's so much my mind seems to be on overdrive, that the capacity of which to, and I think I'm still a work in progress of balancing that. And I don't say that, oh, she's such a hard worker. I need to figure that out. I just think sometimes there's just been a little bit more obsession of like wanting to, you know, redo that practice plan again and again, or watch more film, or needing to organize. And it's just that I need to figure out a little bit more. But my close circle have been awesome.
Speaking of your close circle, Lisa, I mean, what has her role been in maybe just being a friend of yours during this first year?
You know, that's been a really interesting evolution. Rock solid. Her and Jenny Fitzgerald both, right? They're always knew you're in my corner forever and always. But the interesting thing was, like, you knew it was going to be different, but like for 32 years, we'd worked together. So walking into the office, right, you almost see those guys more than you see your own family, right? So there's a sense of, you know, just a normalcy. So when that, you know, when it got to be more consistent, that, you know, they were off doing their things. And, you know, the thing was all of us were doing what we wanted to do, right? So that was just a little bit of an adjustment. And I think everybody had to kind of, you know, take a little space that first few months, because Lisa had to get used to life outside of Carver. I had to get used to life in Carver, you know, running it. So it was a little quiet, right? With the, hey, how are you? But I don't think, we were both kind of laughing. It was July after recruiting. We had some good friends coming to town from Oregon. And Lisa organized a get-together in July. And I think that was the first time I'd really seen Lisa since May, especially in a social setting, right? So with that, then as it kind of got settled, you know, lots of texts. Jenny, Lisa, and I are in a long-lost friends text loop. And they've just been really supportive. And but everybody asks, you know, do they give advice? Or like, absolutely not. Only when asked, you know, be like, what'd you think of our zone? You know, what do you think if asked? But the funniest part is Jenny and Lisa, well, they're so social at games. So if they come to a game, I'll be, what'd you think of that call? They're like, sorry, I was talking. I was like, what? Did you not? So it's just been fun. But as with any good friend, when the chips are down, they were there the quickest and the most often, right? Lisa, you got this. You're good. You're good. And then, you know, you start going up again, not quite, you know, everything's good, you know, just what best friends do. And she's fantastic. And she's rocking it, loving everything she's doing, and has a lot of different opportunities. But forever best friends.
You try to remind people, like Caitlin, Kate, and Gabby had 5 years to build cohesion. It was Caitlin's greatness, but it was also this long form building that took place. But now you guys, I mean, you took Ohio State to the wire. You won 6 of 7. You guys beat a top 5 team here. You've got another one coming on Sunday. Is there a thought that, like, hey, I mean, these gals have played in national championship games. We've been here before. Why can't we make some noise down the stretch?
Yeah, I think, you know, our offense has always taken time. And I said that, I think, at the beginning of the year. It's predicated on a lot of reads. and getting used to each other. And I don't call a lot of sets. I do when someone's hot and when we need it. But I think what we're seeing now, as you know, I've learned to make some tweaks, and we shifted Hannah to the 5 to try to open things up. But they're learning and understanding. And I think that's why we've been able to have some success, because they're getting used to each other. And I mean, I think the thing I tried to focus on after the Ohio State game is, you know, all the positives. You know, the first half we started out too sluggish, and we dug ourselves a little bit of a hole, but they really responded. And I said, if you learned anything, it is that we can play with almost anybody. And if they're the 8th ranked team and we took them to the wire, coulda, woulda, shoulda again, right? That's the thing, though, is that's how life is. You know, there's always that line. We've just got to be a little bit more consistent to get over a line against an Ohio State. But I do think there is great potential, and I felt that even when we had our little spurt of adversity, I was seeing so many good things. And I think when, you know, you see that, there's always hope. And I really believe that we have enough pieces. And so now, if we can, you know, I think the thing is we just got to be a little bit more consistent. We have a quarter that's tough scoring, or we're good shots, or we force some tough shots. But if we get that consistency this last, you know, week and a half of the regular season into the postseason play, I really think a lot of great things can happen. And that's exciting. Because I feel like this team has really handled a lot this year, and they've done really some pretty awesome things in a lot of situations where sometimes, you know, the pressure and the comparisons were so great, and I think, you know, maybe a little unfair at times for some of them. So I am very, very pleased with how they're coming together.
And mentioning that pressure, how have you relayed that message to those freshmen? You know, just because you weren't here last year doesn't mean they don't see the Tiger Hawk and think this is the back-to-back national runner-ups. How have you gone about just, I guess, explaining that to them, while also coaching them through it?
Yeah, I mean, I hit on it heavy at the beginning, and then as we started the conference season, reminded them that they were always guilty by association. Not just the freshmen. They hadn't been here, but Lucy Olson, but, you know, so was Kylie Feuerbach. It doesn't matter that group is no longer here. Caitlin torched them for 30. You know, Caitlin hit the game winner right over there against Michigan State, the very first game of the Big Ten season a year ago. When you're on the other side, you remember that. You know that same team isn't there, but you remember how you felt, and you got another level. And for younger teams, which we are, it's hard because all of them are just trying to process being in this new environment. So we have conversations. I try to remind them, but usually when the game tips, you know, then it becomes us and them, and nothing in the past and nothing in the future. But you do get everybody's best shot. Just like, you know, right now, UConn, no matter who UConn walks into a gym with, there's just a different electricity because it's UConn, right? And that's where we were a little bit this season because of everything we had done. So it's the positive. I tried to focus on the positive, but also tried to make them realize that you got to bring it. You got to grow up a little quicker. You got to understand a little bit faster. And a lot of ways we did it, and in some other ways that we didn't. And, you know, I've critiqued myself probably harder, and I know harder than everybody on social media probably has, or all of our fans. And you just keep pressing buttons. And I think for the most part, we're starting to get the cadence.
I guess that's one way of saying it's a disadvantage. But is the advantage, though, that Sydney Falter and Hannah Stuelke and Addie O'Grady and the staff, that you guys have been in these spots before. You guys have handled the crazy crowds. You guys have handled the tough atmospheres. Is that an advantage? And then when you talk about playing however many extra games potentially in March, how could that help you too?
Yeah, I think it is an advantage. They've seen it. They haven't been the ones in it. And so I think we're growing into that. I think the one thing that is missing is just that consistency of stats, consistency of behavior in the crunch time. And I think that's the thing that I hope we can, now we've been seasoned and use the Ohio State getting close on the road, because I think that was a confidence builder. It could have been huge had we gotten it. But what I tried to do is look what we did in that second half. And, we didn't have all of the key players in that overtime, right? So I said, hey, this is where we really can be. And so if we can start getting that confidence, I think that can be a difference maker into the rest of the season and into postseason. But that's the one thing I've been trying to figure out, is just how to get that consistency so we don't have a scoring drought, or so we don't have, one person that's really pretty good one night and everybody else is, the stats are, shooting percentages are low, but they do enough at the end to get it, right? If we can get that consistency, man, I do think that we can have a pretty fun run. But right now, we got a short amount of time left to get as consistent as I believe it's going to be needed. Does that make sense?
After every press conference, thanks for covering us. Thanks for covering women's sports. I feel like from the second I figured out who you were, I knew that you were a really easy person to talk to as a media member. I guess, why do you always make an asserted effort to be good with the media, to give us the time that you do?
Well, I just feel like, I played basketball in high school, and I was really blessed. We had a really great high school team, and we had a little bit more media coverage than others. And then I went to Drake, and we didn't have quite the crowds following us. We had better than others, but I started to see the discrepancy of coverage for women's sports to men's, and I had long believed that the beauty of sport is, if you really appreciate sport, is watching a young person really push for their dreams. And if you could enjoy that and watch the ascension, the agony of defeat and the excitement, exhilaration of victory, I always thought, wow, why is there so many covering men but not really paying attention to female sports, right? But you just kind of kept plugging away, and that's why I think I've always enjoyed coaching women and watching women succeed, because there never have been chasing the headlines, because we didn't really get them, right? We weren't chasing this next, multi-million-dollar pro scholar or contract. I'm talking back in the early 90s, right? Before we had the things. So you just go try to get people to pay attention. So I talked at a lot of Rotary clubs, church basements, whatever you have, just been, hey, come and give us a shot. And when they watched, and it wasn't so much for your own ego, it was just the stories that these women and how good they were. I just thought, man, if you like sports, you're gonna love to watch Lisa Brinkmeyer play at Drake, right? You're gonna love to watch Sam Logic play here, right? All the things. And so then, as society kind of changed, we know every news media, your budgets. We know the decisions that are made, who can go where. And so I'm just thankful, because I think we're at a really unique point in time. I'd like to think that sports can give everybody kind of a break of what they might be facing in their own life. And when they watch us, I'd love to see us win. That's my ultimate goal. But if you can tune in and watch us enjoying it, playing with passion, having fun, what a great opportunity I have. And it can only be seen by people who can't be here if you guys, the media, cover us. And I just feel so grateful that I'm in that point in time where we have a media room that's usually filled, and I'm just trying to do all I can to hold the standard and to keep attracting great young women who happen to be great players that are easy to cheer for and cover.
Kate took on that role here.
Yep.
She scratches and claws her way to the WNBA.
Yeah.
She's an instant fan favorite. She plays on a contending team. Now she's Now she's on the Valkyries.
Yeah.
What was it like to watch her ascension last year and to find a spot at the pro level?
That was awesome. I mean, I think what the coolest thing for me about Kate's story is Kate is truly the American dream, right? Because I think what I loved about our teams, and I still love, is I think everybody in Carver, they kind of pick a player they either kind of want to be, wish they were, or that I identify, I am her, right? And I think Kate was one of those players, the way she played and her humility, but also her grit and that little, glisten in her eye and that confidence. It just resonated, right? And you could see the glue, which she became. And then when she got that break to go to the pros, really good coaches know that there's a lot of things that happen with those glue kids. And to see her become a star on the WNBA level, although she was a role player, I loved everything about that story because that's life a lot of times. If you just keep plugging away and, maybe you're not always the one with the corner office, right? But you're the one that makes that organization work. And then if given the chance, Kate is going to kill you, right? I mean, when we played UConn last year, her little Dirk moves with the fade, right? Her defense. And, in the pros, when she got some minutes early, just her, her star and people that were really connecting with her. And she's just the greatest young woman. I'm biased. She's my spouse's biological niece, my niece. When she was 5, she'd stay with us. But she had a dream. She put our poster above her bed in her room, looked up at the Hawk poster. And, then she, got good enough to be recruited. And the story is, I loved her, but I removed myself, right? That I told Lisa, I go, you got to fly down and you got to check that, this kid's blue collar. And Lisa flew down and she was like, done, right? And, but her story then, had the knee, didn't play much at the beginning, and then worked her way in and then became the catalyst for all that was. And so now, we all have Golden State shirts for her and we're really excited. I couldn't be more proud of her. I love her to death.
The American Dream. That's a great second nickname.
Yeah.
Blue, the American Dream.
I know. Well, it is because, she handled everything and was, behind the scenes and just kind of doing a lot of the dirty work always. Yeah. But the way she did it, it was just that work ethic that everybody could relate to. And just the best teammate, best leader, a best friend. And I love the storylines of how close her era is, right? And it was really neat, with Caitlin's jersey retirement, she's playing in that unrivaled league, but she took a flight up for a day, right, to come to make sure she was here. And it's just neat. I think that's every coach will tell you the bonds those teams have and be at everybody's life events. The weddings, the big moments, jersey retirements, and to hear the stories, that's every coach's dream. And that's where I feel so blessed and, my, 30 plus years of doing it in the other role and now getting to do this now. At the end of the day, it's always the people, always the relationships. I just hope that we get all that and the people I coach get to have some of those cut down net moments or the ring moments. And that's the ultimate goal.
Gosh, well, a lot of people want Kate and Caitlin on the same
Yeah.
team, but Kate played with Megan last year.
Yeah.
So is it nice when you can turn on a game and
Yeah.
say, I coached
Yeah, it was so great. Lisa and I got to go, and Jenny, I think, went to a couple where they were all 3 on the court at the same time. Yeah. That's rarefied air, right, for most programs, unless your Connecticut has the most in the league. But that was really, really fun. And I think Kate and Megan, and Kate said that Megan had helped her a lot. And Megan Gustafson's story. You talk about another American dream. That kid forever has my heart with how she worked and how she's stuck in this league. She went from one of the best I will always forever go to my grave saying she is one of the best posts to ever play, inch for inch, pound for pound, her efficiency. And then she goes to the league and they're like, well, we need you to be a power forward, small forward. And somehow she had to withstand the highest of highs, the lows, the cuts, and now to really be one of the league's sought after solid role players, hitting threes from the corner pockets. I mean, she's lovely. So I'm so excited for her and Caitlin, watching them in the league, and Kate. Yeah, it's pretty much a dream come true.
Jen, I appreciate you so much. You're the best.
Thank you. I so appreciate you. And this was fun. A little coffee date.
Yes, exactly.
A cup of coffee.
Cheers.
A cup of coffee with
Coffee
Jen.
cheers, my friend.
You can't beat it.
Go Hawks.